Welcome to my YouTube channel and to my training room. For this week's video I am going to demonstrate a valuable scenery technique, making flexible latex rubber rock molds like this one. Here are three of my Woodland Scenics rock molds. They're made of a thick, stiff rubber and they're very durable. They'll probably last me forever. Now if I just want to make rock castings to later glue to my layout once they're dry, they're great. But I prefer to cast in situ, a process known as wet casting, where I fill the mold with plaster and then while it's setting up I hold it in place against the scenery. For that method this is way too stiff. I also have some very large rock molds. Let me put my hands in the frame so you can see just how big they are. This one is more than 4 square feet. Those are clearly too big to hold up against the scenery and do wet casting. So what I'm going to do is convert all of these into soft molds that are appropriate for wet casting. So don't go away, I'll show you how to do it. The process is to make castings from the molds, like this one here. This is actually from a different mold. It's one that I experimented painting and discovered that the black paint I was using for the wash went really purple, so I rejected it. I didn't use it on the layout. This is from another mold that I don't currently have access to, so I'm going to use that. And then what we will do is use liquid latex rubber to make rock molds from these castings. Here's one from Woodland Scenics. Here's another one I found at Michael's. They're different brand names, but they are both the same volume, and using the 40% off coupon at Michael's, they were about the same price. Before I mix the plaster, I'm going to spray the molds with a release agent. I'm just using a liquid hand soap in water from a spray bottle. This is actually black raspberry and vanilla flavoured hand soap, although I don't think the mould really cares. So I'm going to give it a liberal spraying. It doesn't matter if there's water sitting on the mould, that will just get included in the plaster. Well, I've just mixed up a batch of plaster of Paris. I'm making it fairly runny, so it will go into all the nooks and crannies. Now I know from experience with these molds, they use a lot more plaster than they seem to at first blush. So even though that's as much plaster as I can easily mix in one go, it's not even going to fill the one mold. I'm going to have to go back and do some more. I'm using a 1 gallon flexible bucket, and I'm just stirring it with a scrap of wood. Get that on there, and I'm going to spread it out a bit, and then I'm going to come back and pour some more plaster on top of it. If the previous batch had started drying, I would have to wet it again, otherwise I would get a weak bond. But since I am within a minute or so, I don't have to worry about that. It will just flow together. I haven't bothered filling this corner of the mould. It's mainly because I don't care for that texture there anyway. I'm just going to cast the interesting bits. Well, I've let these two rock castings dry for several hours so that they're thoroughly hard. And now I've got to turn them over. There is a significant weight of plaster in this one casting. It's another reason why this particular mould is totally inappropriate for wet casting, because of the sheer weight of the plaster. I strip the mould off. Well, now that I have my castings, The rest of the procedure is exactly the same as if I was making these molds from an actual rock. What I need next is a release agent so that the latex rubber doesn't stick. Now I have this homemade release agent here. It is petroleum jelly dissolved in white spirits. Now what I'm going to do is just get a cheap paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint it liberally all over the casting. I'm using quite a lot of it because, of course, the plaster of Paris is porous, so it's soaking in. Once I've finished coating it, I'll just let it dry. The white spirit will evaporate, leaving the petroleum jelly sitting on the surface of the rock, or of the casting, so that the rubber doesn't stick. There are other release agents available. This one came in the Micromark casting starter set, so I'm just going to use this for the other casting. Well, now that I've given time for the release agent to dry on all my castings, it's time to start coating them with rubber. The latex rubber from Woodland Scenics has gone all hard, and I'm not even going to try to use it. It's not worth risking hours of work just to try to save a couple of dollars worth of latex rubber. This one is brand new and therefore should be perfect. It looks about the same as the other one. If anything, it's slightly thicker. And I'm just going to start painting it on. Again, using an old brush, and it has to be painted into all the crevices. Any gap between the latex and the casting is going to result in an imperfection in the mold, and therefore in every casting I create from it. I think I've covered everything now. Now I just have to select the areas on the other casting, and then when I've done that I have to come back and do about 5 more layers, but I can only do the layers one a day, so it takes a whole week to produce these. And I'm sure you don't want to watch a week of video, so let me just turn the camera off and I will check in with you again later. Well, I've coated several areas on each casting. I figured out after I did it that what I should have done was painted the casting first, because with this one it was very easy to see how far I got. With the others it's difficult to see the white on the white. So what I've done is I've got a Sharpie and drawn around the areas that I've done. With this casting over here, I've done 2 big areas at the top. What I'm going to do when I finish those is I'm going to come back and do overlapping areas. I've used nearly half the rubber already, so I'm not getting as much yield as I thought I would out of one container. I'm going to have to go and buy some more. Well, it has been about a week since I made the last recording. In the meantime, I've managed to get 5 layers of this mold builder, the latex rubber, over all of the areas of the molds. This one I've actually got 6 layers because it's so much larger. I don't want to risk it being too weak. Anyway, what we do now is we start at one edge and we just peel it off. Just got to be very careful when you start not to tear it. But once it starts to come off, it comes off easily. See, now that I've got the first corner done, it's going to come off, but it's still sticking around the edges. That is normal. but the middle comes free easily. There we are. Now this latex rubber mould will now make duplicates of this in perfect detail until the end of time. One thing to be careful of, freshly made latex moulds can easily stick to themselves. If you fold them over and allow them to press together, you might ruin it. So always store them flat and put paper towels or something between each layer of moulds. There's one. I have 3 more here, 4 over there, 4 more there. Now these might have overlapped slightly, in which case I'm just going to cut them apart. I'm going to come back and make another mould of this area in the middle, and another one of that area, because I like those. And that way I'll have all the areas I really like without any mould being too big to handle. So these are a lot quicker to get off than the other one because they have a lot fewer undercuts. Now this one requires special attention. If you recall, I said I liked the reverse of the mould a little bit better. I did some experimenting here. I wanted to make sure that it would come off. I wasn't taking any chances on this because it's an expensive mould and it's not mine. So I used both release agents. There we are. Perfect. That's a rather nice area there. So these rock moulds are now all ready for use. What I need to do next is to get out the release agent, rearrange my masters, and cast the other areas that I want. Over the last couple of weeks I have created 15 more latex rubber molds, and the only cost is 3 tubs of latex rubber, a total outlay of about $34. I hope you enjoyed the show, hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.